Hello, dear friends. What you're about to experience was created just for this channel. Every word, every scene, every emotion is completely original. Let's begin. Part 1. My own daughter said I was embarrassing. Hi. I'm Dana. I'm 31. I'm a single mom. And on my birthday this year, my daughter made me feel like dirt in front of everyone. I fix toilets. Literally. I'm a plumber. I co-run a small family business. I'm good at what I do. I've kept dozens of homes running when others couldn't. Pipes, boilers, systems most people are scared to touch, I can do it blindfolded. I've never felt ashamed of that, until she made me feel like I should be. It was my birthday. Just a small thing at home. Pizza, music, streamers, nothing fancy, just warmth. I had the day off and used it to decorate the living room while she was at school. I even got her favorite soda. She walked in with 2 friends from her cheer team, both girls I've driven to practice more times than I can count, and I smiled, ready to surprise her, but when they saw the decorations, one of them giggled and whispered something. I didn't hear what it was. My daughter, her name's Lexi, she's 14, just rolled her eyes and said, "Ugh, sorry about the smell. My mom probably clogged something again." Then she turned to them and added, loud and clear, "She fixes toilets. Like, that's her job." I told her not to do that gross stuff when people are over. I stood there with a slice of birthday cake still in my hand. One of the girls laughed. The other just stared, and Lexi didn't even look at me. The rest of that evening? They went straight to her room. Closed the door. Didn't even say hi. When I knocked to ask if they wanted some cake, Lexi just yelled, "Can you give us space? You're embarrassing." I sat alone that night. Candles still burning. Balloons drooping a little. And that stupid, "Happy birthday, Mom" sign I made myself, in glitter, the same glitter she'd once begged me to use for her own 6th birthday sign. I didn't cry. I didn't even get angry. I just felt erased, and that was the moment something shifted. You see, I've spent years trying to make her proud. I worked through rain and cold, patched leaks at midnight, pulled overtime jobs when her dad stopped paying support. I fixed more than toilets, I fixed our life, but apparently, that wasn't enough. Apparently, being the woman who built everything we have was gross. So I decided I wouldn't explain myself anymore. I'd show her. And her little friends. And every stuck-up parent who acts like tradespeople are beneath them. I wouldn't yell, or lecture, or demand respect. I'd fix this the only way I knew how, quietly. Thoroughly. Permanently, and it started with an invitation. The invitation was handwritten, not typed. I wanted it to feel personal, but not too obvious. "Lexi, I'd love for you and your friends to come to the open house I'm helping with this Saturday. It's a project I've been working on for weeks. Snacks and drinks provided. Might even be fun." I slipped it under her bedroom door, knowing full well she'd roll her eyes and toss it, but curious if curiosity might win. She didn't mention it that night or the next day. Then Saturday came. I had already arranged everything. It wasn't a random house, it was the new showcase home my team had finished for a high-end renovation company. The kind where every surface gleamed and faucets practically sang. What Lexi didn't know was that I'd designed the plumbing layout myself, and that my name was on the contractor plaque at the entrance. I stood near the front with a clipboard, pretending not to glance up every 5 seconds, until I saw them, Lexi, and 2 of her friends. I almost didn't recognize her, hair curled, mini handbag, a smirk she must have borrowed from someone twice her age. I didn't walk over. I let them explore. I let them gawk at the marble sink I'd installed by hand, the mirror backlighting I wired from scratch, the steam shower I'd argued to include. I overheard one of her friends say, "This place is insane, who even builds stuff like this?" Lexi shrugged. "Some guys, probably." I just smiled. When they looped around toward the entry again, I stepped into their view and said, "Hope you liked it." Lexi's mouth tightened. "Wait, this is your job?" I nodded slowly. "Every pipe, every fixture, even the water pressure. All me. Welcome to my work." One of the girls blinked. "Wait, like, you don't just fix toilets?" "Nope," I said. "But I'm pretty good at that too." And then I turned, calmly, and walked to the kitchen, letting the silence settle behind me. I stayed out of their way after that moment, busying myself with refilling drinks and answering questions from a few curious guests, mostly older couples and real estate types, but I saw Lexi watching me. Her eyes weren't angry. Just confused. She didn't speak as they left. Didn't say goodbye. That night, she was unusually quiet. I didn't bring it up. I just said goodnight and turned off my light like always. But the next afternoon, something strange happened. I got a call on my work cell, the one I usually don't answer on weekends, and it was a woman asking if we do full home system checks for potential buyers. She said her daughter had told her about a cool lady plumber who built the inside of a mansion. I smiled and took the booking. 10 minutes later, Lexi peeked into the living room and sat on the edge of the couch. She never does that. She just said, "So, how do you even know how to do that stuff?" I told her I learned from my uncle, then went through training, then just kept learning. She didn't say much, just nodded and said "oh," and walked away. I thought maybe something had sunk in. But 2 days later, she posted a photo on her story from that open house, no mention of me, just a geotag and the caption, "We eat rich." I stared at that screen for a long time. And something in me just snapped. Not in anger. Not in pain. But in resolve. She wanted to perform for the world? I'd let her. I'd let her say her piece. Then I'd show the entire school, her world, exactly what kind of nobody I really was. And it started with one toilet. A very public, very messy one. It was the school's annual community showcase, a big, braggy event where students present projects, clubs strut their stuff, and parents awkwardly hover near booths hoping their kids acknowledge them. I'd been to 4 of them since Lexi started middle school, always standing off to the side, pretending not to notice when she pretended not to know me. But this year, I signed up. Not just as a parent, as a sponsor. I'd offered to provide emergency plumbing support for the event, free of charge, because I knew something they didn't. Every year, the second-floor girls' bathroom clogged halfway through the day. It always did. The school's old copper pipes couldn't handle the flow, especially with the increased foot traffic. And this year, I was going to be standing by. I wore my work shirt, clean but clearly a uniform. I stood by my van. My toolbox open, tools perfectly arranged. Most kids ignored me. A few adults gave the polite smile reserved for the help. Lexi passed me twice without making eye contact. But by noon, a volunteer came running, red-faced, panicked. "There's a leak upstairs, the bathroom's flooding, do you know where the shutoff is?" I said yes. I followed calmly. And in front of at least a dozen students, a few teachers, and, most importantly, Lexi and her friends, I rolled up my sleeves, slid on gloves, and got to work. Fast. Confident. Efficient. I diagnosed the issue, explained it clearly to the assistant principal who hovered nervously, and got it fixed in under 20 minutes. When I came out, people clapped. A few students even asked how I knew what to do. One teacher said, "You saved the day." And Lexi? She stood nearby, arms crossed, face unreadable. But later that afternoon, I saw her story update. A photo of the hallway, tagged #plumberqueen. No name. No mention. But I knew. She knew. And it wasn't about embarrassment anymore. It wasn't about shame or even revenge. It was about presence. About showing up. About standing in the room and letting the truth speak for itself. I didn't need her to say sorry. I just needed her to see. And now, I think she finally does. She didn't scream. Didn't fight back. Didn't even demand an apology. Dana just showed up, and let the truth do the talking. But if Lexi thought one school hallway moment would be the end of it, she had no idea what her mom had really prepared. Part 2? Things get personal. And this time, it's not just about respect, it's about consequences. Part 2, if you're so smart, why do you fix toilets? The next Monday, the photo was everywhere. Not mine, hers. A girl in Lexi's class had reposted that #plumberqueen story with a tag, "Her mom's actually a badass?" Then another reposted it. Then someone added a photo from the school hallway of me wiping my hands with gloves off, and someone else commented, "She fixed the upstairs bathrooms faster than the janitor." For the first time in a long time, Lexi didn't look through me at breakfast. She asked if I wanted to try one of the new protein bars she liked. Said it wasn't that bad. I didn't comment. I just smiled, took it, and said thanks. But inside? I knew that was just the surface. Lexi wasn't the type to change overnight, not when she'd spent the last 2 years deciding I was beneath her. The new wave of attention wasn't about me. It was about how she looked standing next to me. Which is why I didn't react when she asked, "Can you drop me off 2 blocks from school," again that Friday. Just like always. Or when she made a point to say, "My mom's just extra about stuff," to one of her friends after I waved. I'd seen it all before. The pendulum swing. The polite fake out. And I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I just understood. Lexi wanted to be respected without doing the work. And I was going to give her a choice, keep pretending, or step into the truth. The moment came sooner than I expected. One of the school's career counselors called. They were holding a parent roundtable, a panel of adults from non-traditional fields to speak to juniors and seniors. They wanted me there. Apparently, a few students had specifically asked if the woman plumber from the event could call me. I almost laughed. But then I said yes. I didn't tell Lexi. I let her find out the same way everyone else did, through the flyer on the wall near the library. She saw it. I know she did. Because that night, she came into the kitchen, leaned on the counter, and said, "So? You're doing a panel?" I just nodded. They asked. I said yes. "Are you gonna, talk about fixing toilets and stuff?" "I'm going to talk about knowing your worth," I said. "And not letting anyone else define it for you." She didn't respond. But she stayed in the kitchen longer than usual. I could feel the tension under her skin, the way she wanted to say something but couldn't get it out. And the next day, I found one of my old work photos printed out and shoved into the trash can in her room. She'd written on the back of it, "You're better than this. Stop embarrassing me." I held that photo in my hand for a long time. The same photo I once used on my website, grease on my cheek, smiling next to a crawlspace I just fixed in a storm. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just folded it once and placed it under her pillow. No note. No message. She wanted to erase me? Let her try. Because the real story was just starting. And I hadn't even opened my toolbox yet. The night before the panel, I laid out my cleanest uniform, dark blue, pressed, name patch sewn on the front. Not flashy, but proud. I polished my boots, packed my notes, and printed out a few photos of past jobs, before and after shots, my crew, even a pipe system diagram I once drew by hand that won an award at a local contractors expo. I didn't know if anyone would care, but it mattered to me. I wanted to walk in with more than just my wrench. The auditorium was fuller than I expected. Students filled half the seats, a few teachers clustered in the back, and 5 other panelists sat beside me, a female firefighter, a welder, a woman who ran a landscaping business, and a truck driver who'd been on the road 20 years. Every one of them had hands that told stories. We each had 10 minutes. When my turn came, I stood slowly, let my eyes scan the room. I saw Lexi in the 3rd row, head down, arms folded, trying to be invisible. I didn't call her out. I didn't even look her way again. I just spoke. I told them about working on my uncle's truck when I was 12. About fixing our sink alone after my ex left. About the first time a client looked past me and asked for the real plumber. I told them I don't work in mud because I'm weak, I do it because I'm skilled. Because my job is essential. Because knowing how to build and repair the systems people rely on every day is a form of power too many overlook. I didn't yell. I didn't sell anything. I just told the truth. And when I sat down, there was a beat of quiet before the room clapped. Lexi didn't clap. But she didn't leave either. That was enough. After the panel, students came up. A boy asked how to get certified. A girl said her stepdad was a plumber, and she'd never thought of it as cool until now. I thanked them, packed my things, and walked out into the hallway, where Lexi stood. Waiting, she didn't speak. Right away. Just stood there, arms crossed, jaw tight. Students passed us in both directions, the noise of slamming lockers and chattering fading into a kind of white noise. Finally, she said, "You didn't tell me you were gonna be, the whole thing." I stayed quiet. Let her choose her words. People were talking about you. About what you said. Still, I didn't answer. I wanted her to say it without prompting. "Someone said you should teach a class or something. That you were the only one who didn't sound fake." That one made me smile, just barely. I said, "I was just honest." Lexi's eyes shifted. They were all staring at me. Like I was supposed to, I don't know, claim you or something. I tilted my head. "Were you ashamed?" "No," she snapped too fast. Then added, quieter, "I just didn't expect it." That was the truth. That was what cracked open the idea she'd built in her head of who I was. It didn't match what she'd just seen. Her friends always knew me as the tired mom in work boots who smelled like bleach and looked like she hadn't slept. They didn't know the calm that comes with skill. The power of being relied on. And Lexi? She was seeing it now. And it scared her. Not because it was bad, but because it meant everything she'd said about me out loud might have been a lie. "You're not mad?" she asked suddenly. "About the picture? What I wrote?" "I'm not hurt by the truth," I said. "But that wasn't the truth, was it?" She looked down. That was all I needed. I touched her arm and said, "Let me know when you're ready to be proud." Then I walked past her. Not in anger. In peace. Because I knew she would be. One day. But not before something else cracked first. Her reflection. Her pride. Her voice. And it was already beginning to shift. She didn't come home right after school. I didn't text. I didn't panic. She's 14, that dangerous age where you want freedom without knowing what it costs. When she finally walked through the door, it was past 7. She didn't speak. Just dropped her bag and went to her room. But I noticed she didn't slam the door. I kept cooking. She reappeared 15 minutes later, not in a rush, but not dragging her feet either. She hovered near the edge of the kitchen, arms folded again, but something about it was softer now. "Can I help?" she asked. I handed her a cutting board. Said nothing. She didn't make small talk. Just chopped the peppers slowly, watching me. I waited. Finally, she said, "You weren't always like this, right? Strong, I mean." I paused. "No. I had to build it." She nodded, almost to herself. "People said stuff about you today. Good stuff. But they didn't know you were my mom. They thought you were just cool." I smiled faintly. "Is that bad?" "No," she whispered. "Then, it's just." I didn't know how to say it. That I was wrong. My hand stilled. I looked at her. "Lexi, being wrong isn't the problem. Staying there is." She blinked, then looked down at the knife and said, "I didn't mean the things I said. At the birthday. Or before. I thought it made me look cooler. Like I had distance from the stuff no one else understood." "The stuff like me?" "Yeah," she said, voice cracking. "But I don't want distance anymore." I didn't cry. I didn't even breathe for a moment. I just leaned over, touched her cheek gently, and said, "Then come closer." That night, she posted something new. A photo of the two of us, not from today, not posed. An old one, from when she was 9, sitting in the passenger seat of my van, her hair braided, grease on both our faces. Caption said, "She's always been this cool." I was just slow to catch up. And I didn't comment. I didn't like it. I just turned off my phone, curled into bed, and let that quiet, unexpected kind of peace settle in. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's being so undeniable, so steady, that the people who mocked you have no choice but to meet you where you've always stood. On solid ground. Thanks for watching this part. A lot of us have been there, being looked down on for our work, our choices, the life we built with our own hands. But this story is a reminder, real power isn't loud. It's steady. In the next part, you'll see how one unexpected dinner shifted everything between them, and why sometimes, just standing firm in who you are can change everything around you. Part 3, I didn't raise her to be cruel. But maybe I didn't raise her to notice. A week passed. Then too. Things between us didn't become perfect. Lexi still rolled her eyes sometimes, still vanished into her phone when things got too real, but something softer had crept into the space between us. A quiet respect. A second thought before a sharp word. Then one day I came home from a job, soaked, tired, boots caked in mud, and found her sitting at the kitchen table. No headphones, no phone, just waiting. "I want to do something for you," she said. "For your birthday. I know it's late. But I want to try again." I blinked, still half in work mode. "Okay," I said carefully. "What did you have in mind?" "Dinner. Just us. I'll cook." I almost laughed, not to mock her, but because I couldn't remember the last time she'd boiled water without Googling it. But I nodded. "Sounds perfect." And it was. Not because the food was good, it wasn't. The pasta was overcooked and the chicken dry, but she'd set the table with candles, dug out cloth napkins from a drawer I forgot we had, and played quiet music from a speaker. She even wore that soft navy sweater I always said made her look like herself. Halfway through the meal, she said, "I told Dad I didn't want to come over this weekend." That caught me off guard. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," she said. "I just wanted to stay home. With you." I couldn't speak for a second. I just reached for her hand. And she didn't pull away. Later that night, as I was cleaning up, I found something tucked behind the paper towel roll. A folded note. My name on the front. Inside was a photo, that photo. The one with grease. On our cheeks, us in the van. And on the back, in her handwriting this time, not crossed out, were the words, "I'm proud of you. I'm sorry it took me so long to say it." I sat down on the floor. Right there. Back against the fridge. And cried for the first time in months. Quietly. Fully. Because I had fought for years to keep our world turning, to keep her fed, clothed, alive, and for so long it felt like none of it mattered. Like I was invisible in plain sight. But now? Now she saw me. And not as a hero. Not as a saint. Just as a woman who did her best. And that was enough. That was the lesson. Not that I needed to be admired. But that I didn't need to be ashamed. And neither did she. Especially not of me. That weekend, she didn't sleep in. I heard her up before me, pots clanging, the unmistakable sound of eggs cracking against the side of the sink. When I walked into the kitchen, she had flour on her cheek and was squinting at her phone like it was written in ancient code. "Don't laugh," she said before I even opened my mouth. I raised my hands. I wouldn't dare. She was trying to make pancakes. From scratch. And they were, honestly? Lopsided. But golden. And warm. And hers. We ate at the counter. Side by side, just the two of us, legs bumping, and for the first time in a long while, she looked at me not like an obligation or a shadow, but like someone she wanted to sit next to. When I offered to do the dishes, she shook her head. Go relax. I got this. I should have known something else was coming. Around 4, she handed me a gift bag. No wrapping paper, just an old reusable bag with a tissue crumpled on top. Inside was a small frame. I knew what it was before I turned it around. The same photo. But this time she'd trimmed the caption. Just left the top. She fixes things. I blinked. You cut the rest off. Didn't like the ending. She said. I wanted a better one. I was about to say something when the doorbell rang. She jumped up, faster than I'd seen her move all day. Stay, she said. I'll get it. And then I heard her voice. Hey, come in, just leave your shoes. Friends. 4 of them. I froze. I wasn't ready. Not for another scene. Not for round 2 of being laughed at in my own home. But, when I walked out, they weren't looking at me with smug grins. They stood, one by one, smiled, nodded. One of them, tall girl in a green hoodie, even said, Thanks for letting us come by, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Taylor. Not Lexi's mom who fixes toilets. Not the meme. Just me. That night I sat on the porch alone. Listening to the chatter from inside. Dishes clinking. Music on low. And I realized, something shifted. Not just between me and my daughter. But in how the world saw me. Or maybe, in how I let it. Later that week, Lexi came home from school with something behind her back. Close your eyes, she said, grinning, and for a moment she looked 8 again, not 18, with that same mischievous tilt of her head. I played along. When I opened them, she was holding up a t-shirt, black, slightly oversized, and clearly handmade. In white paint, messy but bold, it read, My MOM fixes more than pipes. I laughed, a sharp, real laugh that surprised. Even me. She looked nervous for a second. Too much? No, I said. It's perfect. You can wear it to your next job. Or frame it and wear it in my heart forever, I teased, pulling her into a hug. That night she sat with me on the couch while I filled out invoices and sorted through appointment reminders on my old iPad. She asked about the clients. Which ones tipped, which ones had weird pets, which ones made the best coffee. I told her everything. At one point she said, You should post videos. Of what you do. Like, explain it. You're good at it. People'd watch. I nearly dropped the tablet. You think so? I know so, she said, matter of fact. And that's when I realized, she wasn't just proud of me now. She admired me. Not because I was cool or rich or loud, but because I was steady. I didn't give up. And she saw it. She finally saw it. A few days later, I did post something. Just a short clip, a time-lapse of me swapping out a kitchen sink, set to music. And when I checked the comments that night, Lexi had left one. Not under her name, a nickname I hadn't heard since she was a kid. But it said, That's my mom. She's a badass. No punctuation. Just truth. That weekend, her dad texted. Said he wanted to take her out to dinner for her birthday. She told him no. Said she already had plans. When I asked what plans, she shrugged. I want to hang with you, she said. Just us. I didn't press. I just nodded. I let her come to me now. Let her decide how close was close enough. Let her show love her own way. But inside, I was glowing. Because for the first time in forever, I wasn't chasing her respect. She was offering it freely. And that changed everything. 2 weeks later, we were back at the same restaurant where it all started, the birthday dinner she once ruined with a single smirk. But this time, she was the one who made the reservation. She asked if I wanted to celebrate somewhere special, and when I gave her a look, the kind that says, What's wrong with home and takeout? She smiled and said, Then let's go somewhere that used to hurt. And make it ours. I showed up in jeans and a work shirt, same boots I always wore. She came in wearing that same red dress from my last birthday, the one she wore when she mocked me. Only this time, there was no performance. No audience. Just her. And me. And a quiet table by the window. We didn't talk about the past. We didn't need to. It was all in the way she ordered for both of us, remembered I don't like too much garlic. It was in how she asked about the new clients I picked up, how she grinned when I told her I'd gotten a request from someone who said, A friend of Lexi's said you're the best. It was in how she paid the check before I could reach for my wallet, slid it across the table, and said, This one's mine. When we got back to the truck, she asked if she could ride with me instead of taking her own car. I like the way it smells, she said. Like metal and soap. Like you. I started the engine, pulled out of the lot, and drove us down the long familiar road home. The sun was setting behind us, casting gold on the windshield. She leaned her head on the window and whispered, "I'm sorry for before. I knew better. I just didn't want to admit it." I didn't say anything. Just kept driving. Because some things don't need words. Some things heal in silence, in shared air, in the creak of an old truck seat and the steady beat of tires on pavement. We got home, and she didn't rush inside. We sat in the driveway, windows down, breeze cutting through the heat. She pulled something out of her bag. A new wrench. Chrome. Heavy. Wrapped in a ribbon. "For your kit," she said. "You're official now." I laughed, took it, held it like a trophy. "I've always been official." "Yeah," she nodded. "But now everyone else knows it too." That night, I went to bed with the window open. Heard her on the phone, laughing softly in her room. No tension. No storm cloud waiting to drop. Just my daughter. My home. My tools lined up on the bench in the garage, one brand new wrench glinting under the light. And a quiet sense that this messy, beautiful, earned respect, was the best thing I'd ever fixed. I didn't write this story to make anyone cry, but if you did, you're not alone. Because I think a lot of us know what it feels like to be underestimated by the people we love most. To be made small because we do unseen work. But this story was never about revenge in the traditional sense. It's about quiet strength. About earning back dignity without shouting for it. About a mother who didn't need to scream to be heard, she just kept showing up. I wanted this ending to feel like peace. Not perfection, but peace. Because sometimes the best victory is when someone finally looks at you and sees the whole picture, and realizes they were wrong. If that hit home for you, I'm glad you were here for it.